Welcome to the LIMBsimple Podcast, where life, investing, money, and business is made simple. I am Melvis Ihezwanu. Today, we'll be diving deep into the philosophies that you need to take you to 2025 that would help you triple your income and give you a sustainable business in 2025. To do justice to this topic, I have no other person than the CEO of LIMBsimple, a master strategist and a chief coach. I have Mr. Ezekiel Solesi.
Success is a very difficult thing because when you fail, you are very sure there's something you don't know. When you succeed, you start to assume you know something, right? And that's the problem. A lot of us miss out on opportunities because we can't get the best value for our business. Until you're number one or number two in the market, you haven't captured the market. If somebody is in your organization today, they're not making you money, they're not saving you money, they're not improving the quality of your product, service, or brand, they don't have a job. Just think about your business now. Think about what numbers you're doing. That number is only possible because you thought it was possible. Thanks for bringing me back again.
You're welcome. So before we get into all of these philosophies, I would like us to start with you. So it's 2025, and I'm looking at you a couple of years way before now, even way before you started, the LIMBsimple brand. And I'm thinking, what solid philosophies did you build your life and your business on that has kept you, decades into business?
So the first thing that, like I said last time, I started to learn very early. And one of the things that I learned was from a guy called Jim Rohn. He's late now, but he's perhaps one of the most influential people in the personal development space. And he says that every man you see, their income level is a reflection of their philosophies, right? And, philosophy here we mean the predominant things that you believe to be true, right? The predominant things that you believe to be true. And one of the very, very early philosophies that helped me a lot was from Mike Murdoch. So Mike Murdoch would say that what you make happen for others, God makes happen for you. And that became very, 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 very important for me, because what that meant for me is that if I needed to get anything done, right, I needed to ask who needs something like this, or who can I help to achieve something that they need to achieve, so that it becomes easier for me to achieve what I need to achieve. Right? So it sort of helped me to become a lot more outward facing. I'm not just self-absorbed. I'm focused on how can I serve somebody to achieve what it is that I want to achieve. Right? So that's one of the major philosophies. In fact, I dare say it's been one of the most important philosophies. I've had that philosophy for at least 26 years now. 26. Honestly, I've believed that for at least 26 years to date.
So be a solution provider.
Exactly. Make sure that you're focused on serving some person or some other people to be able to get the things that you want.
Interesting. Now, that in itself is hard.
Oh, yeah.
Because that means that you have to almost deaden your own desires and your own sort of requirements to pursue a purpose that serves others. And so it makes me wonder, why would we choose to intentionally do the tough stuff? Because it's difficult. And more so is that I want us to tailor this conversation towards entrepreneurs, because people think that entrepreneurship is a gateway to ease and financial liberation. But if we're choosing hard, it means that is probably the exact opposite. Oh, yeah. So how? Talk to me about that.
So one of the philosophies I like to share, something that I've actually imbibed and I like to share with other people, is to choose the hard stuff. Two reasons. One, if you choose to do the hard things, you are very, very easily way above 90% of the people in the world. Because most people will choose the simple things, will choose the easy things. Most people are looking for the easy way out, are looking for the simple things to do, right? And the reason why, when they say things like, 80-90% of entrepreneurs fail in the first year or in the first 5 years, that statistics, it's really a definition of the people, in my view, and there are many other reasons why businesses would fail. But I think one of the major reasons why a lot of businesses fail is that the entrepreneurs enter into entrepreneurship hoping for an easy life. You know? And we said that. We told people, we advised people wrong. We tell people like, your life is so hard, your job is so stressful, go and start your own business. You know, and implying that starting your own business is supposed to be easier than, you know, having your job, right? And the truth is that if you find people who are really entrepreneurs, they tell you that that's not the case. The case is that entrepreneurship, it's a lot harder, 10 times harder. In fact, entrepreneurship is unimaginably harder than working somewhere. Honestly, right? Like if you work somewhere, you probably would get paid. If it's a great organization and you work really hard, you're going to get paid every 30 days, right? Most of the time, most entrepreneurs don't get a payday for years, right? And everything rests on their shoulder. At the beginning, they have to be everything. They have to be the accountant, they have to be the product person, they have to be the service person, they have to be every single thing, right? However, the entrepreneur who chooses that, look, I've made, you know, I had this client that we always have this conversation all the time, and she's always, you know, and they're doing very well, you know, very well in business. And so she's always complaining, oh, everything is hard. And I said, look, this is the life you chose. You know, because the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship is that you don't just become an entrepreneur by accident. It's a conscious decision. You carry your leg and you entered into that temptation, right? So you chose that life, right? And the person who wakes up every single day choosing to do the hard stuff, choosing to do the things that are uncomfortable, oftentimes ends up to be the person that would stay on for a very long time. And in business, in real business, it's not so much how flashy you are or how well you did in the first year, 2 years. It's who can do it the longest. It's who can do it the longest. You know, it's, you know, anybody who's been in business for 5 years, 10 years, has seen somebody who walked into the industry that you're in, very flashy, you know, showed off, did all the things that they needed to do, and, you know, even gave you sleepless nights, you know, and then you just focused and did the work, and in 2 years, guess what, they're out. Because they did not estimate how hard it would be. And so they got bored, they got tired, they ran out of cash, they walked out. You continued.
Yeah.
In 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, what happens is that you've been there long enough, right? I mean, look at all of the business. And it's not just even about entrepreneurship, it's really about success.
Yeah.
You know, so people say, oh, you know, Davido is successful. The guy has been singing since he's like 12, right? His first hit single that really shook everywhere came out when he was 18, right? It's like 6 years, right? Wizkid had been singing and, you know, been in OJB Jezreel's studio for a very long time before his first major single came out, right? So it's really been able to do the hard things for a very long time before you get that breakthrough.
Interesting. Now, if it's anything that I do know is that the importance of personal growth and personal development cannot be overemphasized. But then it's always constantly difficult to push yourself beyond what is easy. Like we just said, do the hard thing. So now you choose to do the hard things, things get easier. But then I do know that you have a principle or a philosophy that says that don't wish it was easy, wish you were better.
Yeah.
Now, if your entrepreneurs are intentionally choosing to do the hard things, and then now they are wishing that the hard things will grow to become easier things, I was saying, nah, don't wish to get it to the point where it's easier, wish to get to the point where it's better. At what point do they start to get things to the point where it is better? When do they know that things are better?
So the way that philosophy goes, it actually wasn't mine. I mean, it's one of the philosophies I learned from Jim Rohn. So Jim Rohn says, don't wish things were easier, wish you were better.
Yeah.
And if you really just look at it, it's not really hard to see it. Things don't get easier, people just get better. I mean, think about it, right? There was a time that if you had malaria, you're dead. I mean, there's a time in this country you had malaria, you're dead. I mean, because we didn't even know what it was, we hadn't figured it out, all that kind of stuff. You get the malaria, you're dead. However, now you have it. I mean, it's still as dangerous as it would be. But now people could go buy something in the pharmacy and they'll be fine in maybe 2 days, 3 days, and the likes. The difference is not that the malaria parasite got weaker or easier to deal with, is that human beings got better at dealing with it.
Definitely.
Right?
Okay.
So the reality in life is that wishing things were easier is just a fantasy that doesn't come to pass. Rather, focusing on getting better is the real deal. I mean, think about, what happened with the pandemic, right? I mean, say what you would about, what really happened. People died. People actually died of the stuff, right? But eventually, we figured it out. Whether by hook or whichever way, we figured it out. Vaccine came out, people's immunity became better. Whatever it is, human beings, the entire human race focused on one major problem and we got it solved, right? So essentially in life, right, things by themselves don't get easier. The way things get easier is when human beings get better at dealing with those things. It's the same thing when you were driving, when you learned how to drive. I mean, depending on how you learn. Some people learn how to drive using manual, right? Some of us, but if when you learn how to drive using manual, I don't know if you remember, did you learn how to drive using manual?
No.
Right? So for those of us that learn how to drive using manual, right? If you're driving was so hard using manual that to change the gear, right, you needed to take your eyes off the road and put your eyes on the gear and change it, right? That's how hard it was. But as you keep going, right, it gets easier. Now, the driving didn't get easy. You just got better. Right? So the idea of this philosophy is to essentially make sure that the person focuses that what's most important is not the situation that's outside of you. What's most important is how are you improving yourself, right? How are you getting better? And when we talk about getting better, most people are like, oh, these trainers, they want to come and sell you something. No. What I tell people is, I mean, you're probably going to go to some trainings, network some people, grow and all that kind of thing. But one of the most powerful things I do to get better, aside of course of meeting really great people and having great conversations, is that I spend maybe 20 minutes every day on YouTube. I mean, there is nothing you want to learn.
Absolutely.
I mean, when I'm talking to people, I'm like, are you married? The person says no. I say, you're a guy, but you're not married. Good. If you want to marry a lady, right? Like, Cardi B with a touch of Choma Jesus, right? If you go on YouTube and say how to find Cardi B with a touch of Choma Jesus in Lagos, you will find somebody has thought about, as weird as it sounds, somebody has thought about that content and has put content out to make it happen, right? So what that means is anything you want to learn, and I do this every single day. Every single day, I spend 20 minutes. I find something that wouldn't take, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, but something around 20 minutes that can help me improve on a skill that I'm trying to learn, whether it's negotiation or it's strategy development or is delegation. I'm learning something every single day. It costs nothing but data. And that's one thing everybody has. So we're not just we're not saying that you should go and pay somebody money to do something. And if you want to do that, that's okay. But we're not saying that you do that. We're saying that you just get better. Because that's where the secret is. Every time two people face an exam, it's the person who's most prepared that passes. Exams, no matter how hard they are, if somebody has the answers, it's a matter of time. They'll finish the exams, they would pass. If you don't have the answers, except if you are very skilled at being able to see what's going on in somebody else's paper, and some people have that skill, which is okay, But if you don't have that skill, you have to have the answer in your head. Looking up does not change it.
Beautiful. So basically, it's the little things. Start where you are, be inquisitive, search for knowledge. And like you said, in a previous video, it is you get this knowledge and you execute them the fastest time possible. I want us to talk a little about the God factor, and also about how we are able to make things happen. So what you make happen for other people is going to somewhat be replicated for you. Now, I want you to talk to me about how the power of generosity as business people, and then how that also would translate to how entrepreneurs are willing to treat their staff in the kindest of ways.
So what I always say is be short-term generous and long-term greedy, right? And what does that mean? It means, look, in the short term, treat your people well. And when I say your people, I don't just mean your staff, I mean your clients, right? Over-deliver in the short term, because if you over-deliver, you most likely would be overpaid in the future, right? So I listened to DJ Khaled did a song, right? And in that song, he featured a couple of people, Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, and I think Rick Ross, right? And, so when I listen to songs, I listen to the lyrics of the song, right? It's very important for me, so, which is why there's a lot of Nigerian songs I don't listen to, because there's no...
I can testify to that.
But Lil Wayne said something that I think is very critical. He says, before they overestimate me, they would underestimate me. And that's very true. The truth is that nobody is ever paid what they are worth, right? For a very long time, you'll be underpaid before you are overpaid. That's the truth, right? And so what happens is that if a business doesn't understand that, they would be too greedy in the short term. So as the entrepreneur, guess what? You don't have to make all the money in the short term of the business, right? Give as much money as the business can afford to the people who work for you, right? Give as much value as the business can afford to the people who you serve, right? Give as much to the people who are in and around the business. Serve them and make sure that everybody is aware. Everybody, the people who work for you, the people who you serve as clients, and make sure everybody is aware that you're significantly adding value to them. Because over a period of time, that will become how they see you, your brand. And as your brand then becomes stronger, what happens is that people then tend to overpay you, right? So what you find is all of the big businesses in the world and all of the very, very, very powerful brands in the world, that's what happens. We make excuses for them, right? I mean, why would somebody buy, an iPhone for the price at which they buy it? Because there is a trust that buying that device means a lot more than just buying a phone. It's joining a community, maybe even joining a cult, and I use that respectfully because I'm one of them too, right? So I mean, maybe, do you understand? People feel a very deep emotional connection to a device. People feel a very deep emotional connection to a brand. People feel a very deep emotional connection. But there were times in that brand or that device or that company's history where they were investing significantly more than they were taking out, where the entrepreneur couldn't take out as much money as his friends could, or couldn't take as much money as he would love to, because a lot more money has to go into R&D. A lot more money has to go into paying the right people. A lot more money has to go into paying right so that you can attract the right talent or keep the right talent, right? So in the short term, as a business owner, try as much as possible to be generous in the short term, right? Be generous, because it's your business. You don't just want to win tomorrow. You want to win 5 years, 20 years, 30 years from now. So people forget that even someone like Dangote had been in business for more than a decade, about 13 years or so, before he went into manufacturing and before he became the Dangote that we're all talking about. I mean, he was just a trader, right? But do you know how much sacrifice it would take to move from being a trader to being a manufacturer? Because, in trading, every money you get is short term, right? You're turning it over very fast, right? Manufacturing requires significant sunk costs. Right? I mean, look at, he built a refinery, that was supposed to cost $9 billion, end up costing $18.5 billion. That's $18.5 billion sunk in the ground, that even if he makes one kobo or doesn't make one kobo, that money is gone, right? That's a lot of money going into that space, right? But eventually he's going to make it. Eventually, I mean, now he's already beginning to see his valuation, as a billionaire has gone significantly higher. I think it went up by about $10 billion or something like that, which makes sense, right? So you see that eventually things work out themselves, right? But you have to think about things from a long-term perspective. So in the short term, be generous. And when you're generous, what then happens, because you mentioned something about the God factor, is that, so the way I think about God and how he gets involved in these kinds of things is that, God is interested in people having a great life, right? And if I'm useful in providing jobs to 10,000 people, 20,000 people, that's 20,000 people that are lifted from poverty, for example. That's 10,000 people that would never have to be worried about where their children's school fees are coming from and all that. And so you find that if I make myself available to be able to serve at that level, I'll just get the best quality ideas. I'll just get the best quality people. And it doesn't matter whether I'm a Christian or not, or whether I'm religious or not. Because if you provide the opportunity to serve a lot of people, you're doing God's work. That's what you're doing, right? And you become a partner with God. And what happens is that God then finds a way, to funnel ideas through to you, to funnel strategies, to figure, because there are probably a lot of his children that are working for you. And so if you don't get the best quality ideas, think about Dangote, for example, right? He's probably sitting in his house one day after he has built the largest cement factory in the world, and he says, look, I'm going to go into, refining oil, right? That simple idea that dropped into his mind would employ more than 20,000 people. Just that simple idea would employ more than 20,000 people. And we're not talking about 20,000 people who are earning peanuts. We're talking about 20,000 people who are earning at the highest level. Anybody who gets to work in that place is not an average Nigerian, right? And that simple idea has built an entire city that I think they said is 5 times the size of VI.
Yes.
Right? That simple idea has built thousands of houses. That simple idea would shelter thousands of people inside that complex. So you see how big that simple idea would be. Somebody woke up in his house and says, I'd like to do this. Look at the effect of it in the lives of people. There are Christians that will benefit from that, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, everybody will benefit from that. Right? What's God's work in the world? It's not to make all of us all right.
Yeah.
If you decide to be generous and grow a business and pay people well and build a big business so that people could earn better, what would happen is that you're doing God's work. And God is just going to funnel things through you and enable you to become bigger.
Talking about God funneling people through you, I want us to talk right now about this philosophy about people being good, and there are probably roughly about 10 people that are bad that will run through your life. Like I said, it's a philosophy because I strongly believe that it is countercultural and it's quite scary.
Yeah.
So how would you translate that to business?
So I truly believe, and I learned that, I can't remember who, I think it was Jim Rohn. So Jim Rohn and Mike Murdoch had very huge influences in a lot of the things that I've come to believe, right? So Jim Rohn said that there are only 10 bad people in the world. Only 10. In the world of 8 billion people, only 10. He says, however, they move around a lot. So you see them in different places, right? But there are only 10 people, and the mindset behind that philosophy is this, that you have to truly believe that people are good until they prove themselves to be otherwise. Now, what happens to most people is that we have a basic belief that people are bad. And so the thing is this, when I meet with you for the very first time, my philosophy about the general goodness or badness of people plays out. If I meet with you, for example, let's assume somebody had told me something about you that is bad. Maybe they told me that you are a thief, right? If I meet with you for the very first time, I would be very careful about my phones. I'll be careful about a lot of things. So I won't even listen to you, right? But that person might just have lied. But that information is coloring my experience with you, right? Now, but if I believe that you're a good person, right, I would show up and then I will give you the opportunity to be able to prove right or wrong. And so what I say is this, treat everybody like the university system. You see what happens when every one of us get into university, first semester 100 level, all of us have 5.0.
Yes.
You are the one that will use your hand and reduce your CGPA by yourself. You look like somebody who reduced their CGPA. No, but it's true. Before the very first exam, everybody has a 5.0.
Yeah.
So when you enter into the school system, the university system assumes you're a genius. So my point here is everybody has a 5.0. Based on the effort that they put in from the first semester, they start to maintain the 5.0 or they drag it down to what they are comfortable with. Right? So some people, where they are comfortable is third class. Some people, where they are comfortable is 2-2. Some people, where they are comfortable. So, but that's how I like to treat human beings, right? Why? Because it gives me an opportunity to just allow them. Now, does that mean that people would not hurt you? They probably will, right? You must have an elastic mind because, again, people are going to do what they're going to do. And you must have the ability to be able to course correct. I'm not going to be angry at you, just course correct. You've told me the kind of person that you are, and I'm, acting accordingly, right? But I want to be able to meet people and be able to deal with them based on the content of their character as it regards me, right? Now, just think about it this way. Even the worst dictators, like the terrible people in the world, there's somebody who thinks that they are the best thing since sliced bread.
Since jollof rice.
Do you understand? And so you realize that and even some of the good people that we all know about, right? If you read about them, like holistically reading, I can't even say it publicly. There are stories about Mahatma Gandhi that are not nice stories. There are stories about Abraham Lincoln that are not nice stories. There are stories about all these really nice guys that are not exactly nice, right? But the overarching, outlook that we have towards those guys has been colored in a certain way that we respect them. So I personally believe that people are good. I think that it's a great way to live because it gives me the opportunity to meet people and judge how I will deal with them based on how they deal with me at the moment.
I like that. I'm also because it takes away from the single story that people are disposed to believe in. But I want us to talk about this as entrepreneurs and probably even hiring managers, yeah? How are we able to, especially in industries where trust is lacking or trust is low or finance, how are we able to sort of identify the good people and the bad? Is it even possible?
It is. I talk about people being good with respect to people that I have no data about. I meet somebody for the very first time, I don't know anything about them, I'd like to listen to them. But if there's data, as far as the person is concerned, the data has to be important, right? The person has stolen money before, you have to assume that that person has the propensity, because there's a red line, right? Right? And everybody can cross that line if the conditions are right. It's true now, because, you might say that you would never steal, again. But if you've ever stole before, that line exists in your mind. It takes, if you just push it the right way, you'll be able, but if you are, but that's also one of the reasons why I'm not a hiring manager, right? Why we contract hiring managers to make sure that I'm not sitting in front of somebody who stole 15 billion as somebody who's going to be my accountant, right? But ultimately, if somebody shows up in front of me and I have no prior data about the person, I just like to trust that, the person is a good person, until the person proves me otherwise. And one of the ways they could prove you otherwise is if you find out something about them that is factual, and you can confront them and you talk to them about it, or you don't want to talk about it, whatever it is. But any facts you have, you should use it to be able to judge to what extent you're going to work with somebody, right? But what that philosophy, what I was trying to communicate with that philosophy is just this idea where people say things like men are scum, human beings are wicked. All this very dark philosophies that people just have that, it just makes them, it guards them in a certain way. They meet somebody and they're immediately thinking about how that person wants to destroy their life, and, maybe the person then wears black and they're like, I even wore black to the meeting. It's a spiritual something, that kind of thing. You don't want to have that kind of philosophy that just darkens your entire life, right? Because my thinking is, see, everything that we believe is right. Everything. If you believe you can do something is right. If you believe you can't do something is right. But the question is whether that belief is right for you, right? And it's not right for you if it's impeding your ability to grow, to expand, to become more successful. It's not right for you, right? But if it can help you move in the direction that you'd like to move in life, then it's right for you.
Interesting. Like, if there's anything that I take from this is that humans are not a monolith, and we come in different forms and characters. You want to identify if this person is for you, and if they are not, be very much,
let them go, please, by the grace of God.
So now I want to talk a lot more now about the life of an entrepreneur. Since we're talking about philosophies, there's one that we constantly hear, which is that entrepreneurs should live on their terms and sort of like determine their life. Now, that's a very sweet concept. That's one of the reasons why people leave their 9 to 5, because they want to live on their terms, and they're living without no plan, no savings, no investments, no business strategy. Talk to me about what the term really means when you say live on your terms.
So living on your terms is not just a term for entrepreneurs. In fact, the truth is a lot of entrepreneurs who went out of their job to live on their terms are not living on their terms because it's not a very easy concept to adopt. Now, what does it mean to live on your terms? Is to be at the driver's seat of your own life. Let's talk about it from an employee perspective, from a business owner perspective.
I would love that.
Right?
I love that.
So you are an employee. So I tell people, an employee in reality is an entrepreneur with one client. That's it. So people are, I'm not the entrepreneurial type of employee. No, you're an entrepreneur with one client. Now, you won't know that you're an entrepreneur until the day they fire you. Yeah, because when they fire you, there's going to be a lot of things written in your employment letter. One of the things that will be written in the letter with which they used to fire you. One of the things that will be written there would be your services are no longer required. And that's and that's a statement that entrepreneurs understand very well. It's your services that have been required all these years, right? So what does that mean? How do I live on my own term as somebody who has a job, right? I need to elevate my craft such that I get to the top 1% in the world that can do whatever it is that I can do. Why? Because the moment I'm one of the best set of people in the world, and I'm at the top 1%, right? My organization would be afraid to lose me as much as other organizations would be happy to have me.
Take you in. Yeah.
Because don't forget, the key to this thing is that you have job security as an employee, job security. And job security is that you're needed. Somebody is afraid to lose you. Somebody is happy to get you back. Many of us don't think about footballers as employees, but they are, right?
They actually are
very
overpriced.
I remember when Cristiano Ronaldo moved to Italy, right? When he moved to Italy, he was employed by Juventus, right? And he gets into that place, and everything changes for the club. Like the club renegotiated their sponsorship deal. Even the entire league, the entire Italian league got significant value in more money coming in for their TV rights because of that guy. Because more people are winning. In fact, for those of us in Nigeria, the DSTV started showing more of that stuff. Many people, he's in Saudi Arabia now. Many people have watched Saudi Arabia League because of him. That's the power of living on your terms. He's an employee. That's what he is. He's an employee of Al Nassr now. But he's an employee on his own terms. Right? If the day he decides he wants to leave, he can leave. But the club is not willing to lose him. Right? And other clubs are hopeful to get him. So that's how to live on your terms if you're an employee, right? Be so valuable. The organization you're in is unwilling to lose you, and the organizations around are very happy to get you, right? It doesn't mean that you would leave, but it just means that you have security at that level. Now you run a business, right? Living on your own terms means that you design a successful life that is based on the one that you control. Now, what do I mean? If you're an entrepreneur, make sure that you're the one running the business and the business isn't running you. What are the things because you don't want to lose out on things that are very important for you in life, right? You don't want to run and build this business and lose out on your family. You don't want to run and build the family and lose out on the business, right? Design an integrated life, right? Figure out ways in which you can try and string everything along. I don't really think that there's, what you call work-life balance. What's your thoughts on that? I think that there's work-life integration. I think that you're a business person and a father. You're not a business person, in the office and a father, at home. You're both everywhere, right? It means that as a father, if there's a reason to be a father in the office, I do it. Do that. Right? It means that I'm 100% whatever it is that I need to be per time. Right? So there are days, I personally, as an entrepreneur, one of the major things that I'd love to do, and I've done maybe 80-90% of the time, is that I like to drop my kids off and pick them up from school. Right? And to be able to ensure that my staff can also do the same, we moved the resumption time to 9 o'clock, right? Because, I know that people have to be in school at 8 o'clock. So you still have an additional hour. And then we structure our business in such a way that people can earn well enough to be able to leave 30, 45 minutes away from the office, right? So that way you could still do some of these things and then still make it to the office in time. Because for me, that's very important. I need to be able to control the philosophy that what they're listening to, the things that they're learning, what they're becoming as they grow older, right? I'm very, very, very present. I like to say that we try to be very present as parents. For like maybe 9 years, maybe we've missed 2 or 3 times where we do not read a book to them in the night. And the result of it, which I think is really, really great, something that I'm beginning to see, is that my first son, who's almost 9 years old now, reads a book a week. I didn't even read a book a week until I was, maybe in my teenage years, right? So I never even read a book a week, honestly. I'll be honest on that. But he reads a book a week. He takes the book, he has a library that he goes to, he would, get the book and he would read through it the entire week, write a review of the book, and then go back and then get another one the next week, right? He has a very good relation with the library, So for me, those are the kind of things that I want to be able to do, right? So there are levels of success at this level that might be difficult for me to access because of the life that I've chosen, but that's the life that I've chosen, right? And as I keep going, I would make decisions. I'd never want a situation where I achieve a level of success that would cost me something that I think is more expensive than the cost of that success. So that's what I mean by living on your own terms. Make sure that whatever life you're living, right, is the one that you chose, not just something that you fell into. You're not just running someone else's script. And you could do this whether you run a business or you work somewhere. You could just make sure that the life you're living is the one that you chose.
Beautiful. I think more so is the fact that this is a principle that applies both ways. As an employer, as an employee, you can live your life to the fullest. You just need to determine what your life would mean for you without actually listening to all the noise. Around.
Ultimately, and to do this effectively, you have to stop comparing yourself with somebody else.
Exactly.
Right? Because you have to understand that people are running different races in life, right? I mean, there are people who, at some point in their business, they are able to do certain things that I couldn't, and it's okay. At some point in my business, I'm able to do certain things that I couldn't do previously, and it's okay, right? I'm not running a race. I'm not checking somebody else's business to see how well I'm doing. I'm checking my past. I'm checking what was I doing last year? What was I doing 6 months ago? What was I doing last month? How am I improving? Right? And how am I ensuring that I'm integrating everything in, right? How am I ensuring that, I'm a business person, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm all these things, as many things as I can fit in, per time. And, once in a while, you realize you dropped the ball in a couple of places, and then you research, you pick things up, and you keep going. But ultimately, the life that you live has to be the one that you chose.
Now, this actually now takes me to the next principle that I want to talk about. We just highlighted the importance of, staying true to your own cause and choosing the life that you want. But then it's life, and life is really short. So it begs the question, momentum and speed, with pursuit of goals. How is it possible for entrepreneurs to prioritize speed but then not give up on, quality?
So Brian Tracy said, successful people have a sense of urgency, right? And personally, I think that that's one of the gifts, or one of the gifts that I've given myself, the gift of speed. So I tell people, if you are not going to live forever, you don't have a lot of time.
And nobody's going to live forever.
So, some people act like they're going to live forever. But no, I'm telling you, if you're not going to live forever, if I'm going to live for 500 years, I don't have to be rich now, right? I just have to live the first 400 years, understanding how things move, up and down, and then use all that 400 years experience, and then just I'm blowing the next 100 years.
Yeah.
Do you understand? But if I'm going to live for 120 years, perhaps, right? And you're already in your 40s, the question is, you don't have much time. You've done the first third of your life is gone, right? The last third of your life, you probably you're not going to have enough energy to work this fast or work this hard. So you have a short amount of time, right? And so you have to act fast. And one of the benefits of acting fast is, some people have an idea, they're still thinking. When you act fast, you would make a lot of mistakes, but by the time they are ready to start, you have experience, right? You've made mistakes, you've done a couple of things that haven't worked, you've done something that has worked, and now you understand why things don't work. And that person is just starting, right? And that person is going to there is nobody on the face of the earth that would get things 100%. It's just mathematically impossible, right? That everything you touch would work out the way you plan for it to work out, right? We've been seduced by the story of the tortoise and the hare, right? Right? And say, the tortoise was slow and steady, and
the hare was distracted,
and the hare did not win. The truth is that the tortoise didn't win because the hare was fast. The tortoise won because the hare was distracted. If that hare had focused and ran through, he would have gotten there, and he would have sat down and had a good lunch before the tortoise even gets halfway.
One thing I want to know now is, what would be the metrics or the yardstick for determining speed for businesses?
The time between what you thought you should do and when you're actually doing it. That's it, right? You think about something, the longer it takes you to execute, you're not fast, right? It frustrates my wife, but it's the way it is, right? I think about something in the morning, I'm doing it. And I wasn't always like that. Remember, I told you, I had a friend. I don't want to mention his name, so I don't cast it. But I had a friend. I mean, I never met somebody like that in my life, who you see him learning something now, and he's executing it immediately. And I saw how different night and day our lives were, even till date. There's still a difference between our lives. I mean, we're both successful. I mean, to an extent, we're both not where we want to be, but I mean, the guy is gone, man. I mean, the guy he's so gone, I still call him uncle. I'm telling you, right? Because, I mean, do you know how fast people move? That guy moves fast. And when you move fast like that, you realize that, movement in any direction is better than not moving.
Oh my God.
No, I tell you, even Jesus Christ, even Jesus Christ, book of Revelation, he said it. He said, he rather that you are hot or cold.
Don't be lukewarm.
He said, if you are not anyone, I will spit you out
of my mouth. Yeah.
I mean, if you are like Osama, we know we need to save you. If you are Adebo, you know you are coming. But the one that we are not sure whether, but you don't want to be dilly-dallying, right? You don't want to be double-minded, right? And, the Bible has said it, that the double-minded man is unstable in all his ways, right? So you get something, your speed is determined by the amount of time between when the idea hits you and when you execute.
Beautiful. I want us to talk. You did say already, we've talked a lot about God, and apparently, I think I've also had a conversation with you where we highlighted how entrepreneurship and business is very spiritual. It's very spiritual.
Yeah, it is.
I want you to talk to me about the role that prayer, regardless of one's religious background and belief, positively affects, business.
Oh yeah, I mean, so I tell people that prayer is critical, and it doesn't matter what you believe, because people that listen to us believe all sorts of things. I have my beliefs, but I believe that, and why is prayer important? Because just the act of praying means three things. First, it means that you are aware that there's someone that runs the entire world that has a bird's eye view of the situation. So one of the most unique experiences that I usually have is anytime I'm flying into Lagos, right? And so if you're flying into Lagos, right, especially when you're taking the local flight, I can't remember because a lot of the international flight will land in the night and all of that kind of stuff. But I can't remember if I've thought about this or I've seen this during international flight, but during local flights. So when they land at the Lagos airport, right beside Lagos airport is the Abeokuta Expressway, right? So if you look at the Abeokuta Expressway, that view always inspires me all the time, right? And the reason why it does is that, so there's somebody on the ground, and there's always a lot of traffic in that place, right? So there's somebody on the ground, right, cursing God, cursing the economy, cursing the president because of the traffic, right? And he's not even aware. Maybe he has even went down and cursed somebody, and that's his father-in-law to be, that he's going to go and meet in the house. But the key is, he's getting so worked up, but he's not aware that just 20 meters in front, it's free, right? So that's how we are as human beings. So we're inside that traffic.
I get it.
And we're all frustrated.
Up there in the flight and
but somebody has a bird's eye. So every time I'm flying, I'm always looking at it like, I mean, just seeing that view changes my reaction when I get into that traffic.
I understand you now.
Right? So because I know that as bad as it is, just a few minutes
right
up there, it's going to get free. So for me, that's what prayer does, right? It's communicating with somebody who has a bird's eye view, right? Who has a large view of the entire situation. It sees everything, sits outside of time, and understands all of the timelines of your life, right? There are very incredible things that have happened in my life, and looking back at it, you'd be like, I mean, I just got myself all worked up. And this was always going to happen. There was always going to be this junction, right? Where this would happen. right? So oftentimes, being somebody who pray as much about as many things as you can gives you an opportunity to have a conversation with somebody who could give you a glimpse into their view of the situation, which might, right, help provide some form of calm for you so that you know that this too will pass. Right? So that's one very, very important thing, right? The second thing that, that praying does is it gives you the opportunity to talk to somebody who might respond to you or not respond. But we all know that if you go and sit down with a therapist, for example, right? A therapist's asset is not really in anything that they say to you, as it is in their ability to listen to you. Right? So sometimes just knowing that you could close your eyes or just stand by yourself or take a walk and just talk to somebody like the person is there, right? And feel a sense that the person heard you and feel a sense that the person is telling you something. And sometimes maybe not even telling you anything, right? Just somebody you could just vent, rant to and say, look, this is, I was watching one video recently and some, Nollywood actor was saying, sometimes this is how he talks to God. That he said, God, see, if this thing doesn't happen, they will disgrace me. And if they disgrace me, the disgrace will follow and touch you too. Because I've already told everybody that, you are my God, you can do everything. So your family name is at stake. But as funny as that sounds, it just makes sense to be able to talk to somebody like that. Right? And then when you do that, and on rare occasion for some people, on regular occasion for some others, maybe you might even get an answer, right? You may get a nudging to say, do this or move in that direction or, get this or call this person or, and eventually, you get a breakthrough, right? So I believe that as entrepreneurs, as business people, as human beings, right, that believe in the fact that this entire world did not just appear out of a cosmic mistake, right? Because, imagine the person who propounded the Big Bang theory, I just imagine
evolution.
How he was explaining it to somebody who thought that it was a reasonable theory. That all these things, something just blew, then everywhere just arranged. Do you understand?
Yeah.
But it's well, let them believe what they want to believe. But the point is that if you do believe that all this didn't just happen, then there has to be a sense in which you know that there's an intelligent being behind all of this. And if that person was smart enough to build all of this, there's a sense in which the person has an insight on your life that you might not have. Right? He has a bird's eye view, he has an insight, he's ready to listen, and maybe oftentimes or sometimes offer his thoughts about what it is that you're going through that might move you in the right direction.
Now, I'm going to have us end this with one philosophy that you think would, cut across entrepreneurs, employees, married people, single people, and probably well off into next year, help businesses. And by next year, I mean 2026, because January is far gone already, as at when this will be posted. So if there's anything that businesses or business leaders want to constantly keep right at, the front of their head, when they wake up, that's the first thing that they think about that would help them kickstart their day, what is that one-liner for you?
So for me, I think the most important one for me is that your entire life right now is the life that you chose. Consciously or unconsciously. You might have chosen it deliberately. You might have chosen it involuntarily by a way of omission, by the things that you did not choose to do, but it's your fault, right? And that's very important. Now, why that's important? Because at the first glance, it feels like a very, very self-depreciating, but the reality is that if it's my fault that I'm where I am, if I don't like where I am, then I could do something about it. If it's someone else's fault, then I can't do much about it, right? So that for me, that's the major thing, right? So If I wake up in the morning and I look at my life and the things that I have and don't have, the things that I hope for or don't hope for, or the things that I'm trying to do or can't do, or the thing or the level that my life is at the moment or isn't, it's me. I made this happen, either by the things that I chose to do or by the things that I chose not to do, by the things that I chose to believe or the things that I chose not to believe, right? And so if I want something better, it's up to me also. Right? If I want a better relationship with my spouse, it's up to me. If I want a better relationship with my God, it's up to me. If I want a better relationship with my children, it's up to me. If I want a better relationship with my business or better level of success, it's up to me. Everything is up to me. So if it's going to be, it's up to me, really. So for me, the most important thing that I usually think about every single day is it's all my fault. I made this happen. I can make something else happen if I want to.
Thank you so much for this, Mr. Ezekiel. I am quite sure that with all the philosophies and, mindset change that we have had, you have every ability to effect transformative change in the year 2025. It's a great pleasure once more to have you here. Now, if you're listening for the first time, this is the LIMBsimple Podcast, where we tackle life, investing, money, and business in the simplest way possible. Would love to reach more audience like you that are intentional about their business and about their growth. So to do this, we'll need you to smash the subscribe button and share this information to as much people as you think would gain value for it. So we'll see you next week. Remember, it is your decision to effect the changes that you want to see in your life. So start today and get better at it. See you in the next one. Bye.